Relieve, Respond, Revive. WSFL-TV presents The Rebound South Florida.
When you don't have contact tracing, you have the surge. That's exactly what's happening.
The state's contact tracing program has local leaders frustrated. It is supposed to help stop the spread of COVID-19, but some say it's a weak weapon in the fight against the pandemic. Plus, managing the pressure. It's something some adults have been struggling with since the pandemic began. But what about our kids? What parents can look out for and how they can help their children deal with the anxiety.
In the state of Florida, only about 53% of children are actually ready for kindergarten. And unfortunately, for our lower income families, that number is even higher.
We know literacy is important for children of all ages. And because of you and our Give a Child a Book campaign, we're putting literacy first. How your donations will help put books in the hands of hundreds of South Florida children. The Rebound South Florida starts right now.
I'm Forrest Saunders at the Capitol. So what does having a new president mean for Florida's fight against COVID-19? President Joe Biden has promised to vaccinate 100 million people in his first 100 days. And while some are cheering that goal, others say they're worried about what comes next.
So help you God. So help me God. Congratulations, Mr. President.
With that, the nation welcomes a new commander-in-chief. The change coming as Florida continues to battle a deadly pandemic. It's 4.3 million seniors desperate to vaccinate against it.
We're going to be in fine shape.
Emergency Management Director Jared Moskowitz foreseeing a smooth transition. Certain President Joe Biden won't play favorites as dose distribution becomes a major challenge.
I don't think he's going to be using the vaccine to, reward friends and punish enemies. That's not going to happen. We've had that for 4 years, quite frankly.
For weeks, Florida has struggled with limited vaccine supply and lack of transparency from the federal government. Officials only getting 6 days' notice on weekly shipments, which have hovered around 250,000 for the state's more than 20 million residents. Biden has promised more openness and supply, which medical experts say is needed.
I think that is absolutely critical right now.
Epidemiologist Mary Jo Trepka, hopeful the new president delivers, saying America has the power. It just needs the will.
We have lots of resources. There's no reason why we can't do a massive vaccination campaign and do it really well.
But Florida's governor, a close ally of the former president, has concerns about Biden's plans to boost distribution.
Trying to change radically in the middle of this, I think, could be potentially problematic.
DeSantis saying Tuesday he's opposed to opening federal vaccine clinics, something the president wants.
Are you going to divert vaccine away from my efforts and the efforts here, where we're doing 70, 80,000 people a day?
Some pandemic researchers also worry the new administration will eliminate a Health and Human Services hospital capacity tracker established by Trump. The CDC is trying to absorb the responsibility, believing it could do better.
No data set is perfect, but it's supplying us with really reliable information.
Professor Jason Salemi says it took a while to get the government to publish the details, and he'd hate to lose time to a rebuilt alternative.
Dismantling and trying to start it from scratch at a time when we've got so many cases still in the United States and we've got the vaccine under development and we're trying to track so many things, I think would just be a major setback.
What comes next will be up to Biden. At the Capitol, Forrest Saunders, WSFL TV.
Failing, overburdened, outpaced by COVID-19. That's how some are describing the state's contact tracing program. Tonight, I take a closer look at where the program stands and why the state is offering so few details about its efforts.
Touted as a major weapon in the war to stop the spread of the COVID-19 virus, Florida's contact tracing program remains an active part of the state's battle.
Has contact tracing gotten any better in Florida?
No, it hasn't. Contact tracing still remains one of many weak points in our approach to this pandemic.
And statewide details appear to still be shrouded in secrecy. Despite repeated requests for basic information, including current number of tracers, success rates, and program details, the state's Department of Health has yet to provide us answers. So we asked cities and counties.
Almost nothing has been done to tell people what this process is about,
including Miami Beach Mayor Dan Gelber, who has been an outspoken critic of the state's overall response to the pandemic since the beginning. Contact tracing, no exception.
Unfortunately, deja vu, because it happened precisely like this over the summer, and we didn't even have enough people to make the calls at that point. Now we just have a terrible program.
His city and county, Miami-Dade, remains an epicenter for positive cases, deaths, and a constant surge.
When you don't have contact tracing, you have the surge. That's exactly what's happening.
In state draft reports about Miami-Dade County he provided to us, over a 2-week period in December, less than half the number of people who tested positive were interviewed by a tracer within 2 days.
We are not even reaching 50% of those infected on a daily basis.
A week or so before Christmas, that's a tough time to contact trace.
I look at them every 2 weeks, and it's not been better previously.
We asked the state for copies of all Florida county contact tracing follow-up reports going back to November 1st. Its response? Our request is currently being processed.
At this point, we see real challenges with operationalizing contact tracing across the country because of a couple different factors, one of which is just the surge.
Adrian Casalati of the National Association of County and City Health Officials says the surge, coupled with individuals' refusal to cooperate with tracers, has left state contact tracing efforts around the country struggling to keep up.
There are just some places that aren't even attempting contact tracing to certain levels at this point, depending on how their community spread is going.
Florida is still working with an outside firm to contact trace, paying a total of $70 million over the next year, according to the state's government contract website. In this email, a spokesperson for the company stated, Maximus continues to support the state in their contract tracing efforts, and we are working closely with the Florida Department of Health to provide any support they need to address the current COVID-19 cases in Florida. What that means and how it's working, like contact tracing itself in Florida, remains a question we've repeatedly asked, but the state has yet to fully answer.
I've thrown my hands up many times. I'm well past the point of disbelief.
County health departments we contacted also wouldn't disclose details, referring us instead to the state. Katie LeGrone, WSFL TV.
Here's what's next on the Rebound South Florida. Unemployment scams. Millions of people are being targeted. What you need to know even if you aren't employed. Plus, managing the pressure. Adults aren't the only ones struggling. What parents can do to make sure their children are mentally rebounding.
It's no secret so many people are having a hard time rebounding from this pandemic. And it's not only adults who are having to learn how to manage the pressure. Kids are feeling it too. It's been a long, hard 10 months, and while parents may feel like their kids are used to the new normal, psychologists say it's important to listen and validate how your child is feeling. Watch for unusual behavior that spans for weeks.
Some of this is very new. They've never felt any of these emotions, even somatic. Somatic are physical complaints, headaches, difficulty sleeping, stress beyond something that they felt before, loss of appetite, not wanting to engage in the things that they typically like to engage in, disconnecting from you as a family unit or even friends. Those are red flags that I want you to seek out. Talk to your pediatrician.
Patel says it's also important to instill hope. Give your child positive affirmations every day. Another tip, Patel says parents should ask their kids what they want to do when the pandemic is over. Find things you can plan and look forward to.
I'm going through what I'm going to call a first world problem. Some other people are going through a lot worse.
Being taken advantage of during this pandemic. It's happening to millions of people. What you need to know about unemployment scams and how they could affect you even if you're not employed. And we want to help South Florida get back to work. So who's hiring? We'll take a look at the positions one new restaurant is looking to fill. You're watching The Rebound South Florida. Getting through this with stories to help get back on track as we rebound in South Florida.
Foreign scammers are ramping up efforts to defraud our unemployment systems, already making out with billions of dollars, according to the Department of Labor. Here is how this is affecting both those who are unemployed and those who are not, but also what all of us may need to look out for this month.
While millions of Americans have lost their job during this pandemic, Corey Honza, a senior marketing director, is fortunate to have maintained his. However,
so back on December 23rd, I woke up and I got a very odd email from my HR department. And basically they said, we wanted to let you know that somebody has filed unemployment under your name.
Hansa pays for identity theft alerts and protections, and still someone was able to steal his information and file an unemployment claim in his name. And before he could figure out what to do,
they sent me a credit card already with a debit ability to get money, and I'm like, what are you doing?
eventually he learned the state of Colorado, where he lives, and almost every state now, has set up a page on its unemployment website with details about how to report this fraud.
I went through all those different steps, contacting my local police department, going on the IRS website.
There's no exact number of how many people have had their identities stolen by these recent scams, but the Department of Labor has identified this number: 36 billion. That's how much money has been illegally siphoned out of the unemployment system since the start of the pandemic through November.
There's a huge international fraud ring called Scattered Canary that's responsible for a lot of it.
Michelle Evermore is a senior researcher and analyst at the National Employment Law Project.
What is going to happen this month that is particularly terrifying to me is those people whose identities have been stolen will receive a 1099-G, that they should have to pay taxes on this money that somebody else took out in their name. And they may not have known that their identity was stolen.
It sounds scary, but don't panic if this happens to you.
These agencies are setting up communication pathways for people to communicate that their identity has been stolen, because this is so prevalent.
Most people should be able to resolve the tax and identity issue within a few weeks.
I'm going through what I'm going to call a first world problem, but some other people are going through a lot worse.
Some, like Hansa, worry more about how these scammers are affecting those who actually have lost their jobs.
In the most recent relief bill, now every single state has to have another step of identity verification in order for people to get benefits. And as we know, any hurdle to benefits is going to disclude people.
At the very least, the requirement is meaning some have to wait longer for benefits they desperately need now. I'm Alicia Nieves reporting.
We know many of you have lost your jobs during this pandemic, so every week on The Rebound, we highlight companies that are hiring to help you find the job that's right for you. This week, we're telling you about a new restaurant that's opening in South Florida and looking to hire several employees. There's a new restaurant in Miami. Uchi, which stands for home, is bringing sushi and Japanese fare to Wynwood.
Uchi Restaurants is a restaurant based out of Austin, Texas. We actually have several locations, 2 restaurants in Austin, 1 in Houston, 2 in Dallas, 1 in Denver, and then we're opening our newest location here in Miami. We feature a full sushi line, but we also have a hot side kitchen that features hot composed dishes, composed desserts, things like that.
Opening a restaurant is a challenge on its own, but imagine during a pandemic. Steven Stanwyck with Uchi Restaurants says they've implemented new strategies to make sure everything runs smoothly, and most importantly, that every employee and customer is safe.
Social distancing of our staff during training, sanitation procedures, new service standards, because all of our food is really actually designed to be shared, but we want to give our guests the opportunity to kind of serve themselves if they don't necessarily feel as comfortable sharing from one dish. Daily wellness checks for our staff.
They've put up a lot of safety precautions. We are wearing masks the entire time that we're in the restaurant. We have all partitions between the tables. We're making sure that even during training, we're staying separated from each other.
Alyssa DeAngela was out of work for 6 months and says she decided to move down to Miami from Austin, Texas, after receiving an opportunity to work for the company.
We went through 2 shutdowns, one in March, right before St. Patrick's Day. Then we were open for about 5 weeks until we had to get shut down again, which was definitely challenging. So at the end of 2020, I was definitely ready for a change, and I said, this is the opportunity.
Alyssa says she's only worked with Uchi Restaurants for a couple of days and says she already feels at home.
People are really here to train you. They want you to learn, and they want you to feel the passion that they feel about the foods that they're putting out. It's really nice to come to work and feel appreciated and inspired to do well.
We can't teach you to be nice. We can't teach you to be a good teammate. We can't teach you to collaborate. We can't teach you to care. Obviously, service industry experience is really, really great. But if someone doesn't have those innate qualities that probably come from their parents or the way that they were, brought up and raised in that sense, or just innately have within themselves, like those are the type of people that we're looking for. And I think that's how we've created a really, really substantial culture in our restaurants.
Uchi Restaurants is looking for 8 to 10 people. You can find the different positions, qualifications, and how to apply on our website, WSFLTV.com.
We know literacy is important for children of all ages, and because of you and our Give a Child a Book campaign, we're putting literacy first. How your donations will help put books in the hands of hundreds of South Florida children.
Studies show a child who can't read at grade level by 3rd grade is 4 times less likely to graduate high school, and that same child is 13 times less likely to graduate if they live in poverty. That's why WSFL-TV and the Scripps Howard Foundation teamed up to raise money to give books to children in our community who need them the most. Last year, we asked for your help and you delivered, and now hundreds of local children are getting a special gift.
Who likes books?
Dozens of children at IBK Preschool in Lauderhill received a bag of books today.
Yeah, they do look like noodles. They're making me hungry.
It's all part of our Give a Child a Book campaign. In partnership with Miami-Dade Head Start and the Early Learning Coalition of Broward County, over 1,000 books will be given to students in need. In Broward, over 600 students will receive books.
In the state of Florida, only about 53% of children are actually ready for kindergarten. And unfortunately, for our lower income families, that number is even higher for not being prepared for kindergarten. And so many studies show that literacy is a huge indicator of how a child is going to do later on in life.
Renee Jaffe, the CEO of the Early Learning Coalition of Broward County, says the earlier parents read to their kids, the bigger chance for success.
From the moment the child is born, we would love for parents to be reading to their children, having them recognize sounds and looking at pictures and getting them excited about it. It's also a great bonding opportunity.
John Chapman, an IBK father, says he's thankful and believes reading is crucial for his son.
It's great for the children. We're receiving 2 books today, so they know how to read, and it's good for them when they get older.
Since 2017, the Scripps Howard Foundation has distributed more than 352,000 new books to children in need across the nation.
As a television station, we're proud to support the community, especially during a time like this, and helping to grow literacy among our youngest kids.
It's important through this pandemic that there are efforts geared to those children, especially that are not attending school. There you go.
Enjoy.
Not everyone is born and raised in South Florida. Some people choose to start a family here. Whether it's spending holidays at local parks or just a family trip to do groceries, every part of South Florida can bring special memories to a family. Tonight we leave you with Josephine Fuller from Miami Lakes.
Been here for 30 years. It's really nice. We still live in the same house. So the house that my kids grew up in, my grandkids now get to see. They get to see where their parents grew up, and we go to the same stores, the same parks. There was a lot of history in going to Publix. It was a fun family thing to do. And you get to meet your neighbors there, get to see what they're doing. Miami Lakes is really unique because it grabs a little bit from all different cultures. Colors of the houses and the styles of the houses. It looks like an up north community. That's why I picked it. But there's also tropical life down here. Being outdoors all the time if you want. If you choose to be outdoors, you can be outdoors 365 days a year down here. It's beautiful.